Hey everybody out there in YouTube land, it's your friendly neighborhood reactioneer, just a guy trying to get his piece of the piece. Here we are with another collaboration between the inimitable Mr. Leon Smith and myself, the Elvis novice, along with the Elvis expert. And I think together we bring an interesting thing to the table where I supply the reactions and he supplies the expert commentary. And the theme for this presentation is alternate orchestral versions 1972. We got 4 tracks. This should blow our minds. I already know it's going to blow our minds. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. And if you haven't, please consider. We could use all the love we can get. All right, we're going to move on to the first song in this presentation, and this is called Fool. You're in the countdown.
Fool, you didn't have to hurt her. Fool, you didn't have to lose her. Fool, you only had to love her. But now her love is gone. Fool, you could have made her want you. Fool, you could have made her love. You only had to love her, but now her love is gone. Gone now, the love and laughter. See yourself the morning after. Can't you see her eyes are misty as she said goodbye?
Oh, gotta go back. That was a climb if I've ever heard one, man. Sometimes those progressions, I mean. Woo! Lift off. We have lift off.
You didn't have to hurt her. Fool, you didn't have to lose her. Fool, you only had to love.
Listen to that harmonization.
You only had to love her, but now your love is gone. You didn't have to lose her. You could have made her want you. You only had to love her, but now her love is gone. Listen to it. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's gold at the end there too, man. Oh my God. Okay, if Barry Manilow or anyone else put out that song, it would have been an instant #1. I can say that unequivocally. I know it. I'm so happy to be exposed to a lot of these Elvis great songs, full of studio mastery, full of passion, full of vim, full of vigor, all that kind of stuff. But yet I still get ticked off when I find out that these songs didn't go as far as they could have. I mean, this would have been one of those 70s classics, hands down. I mean, listen to those backing vocals too, the way they harmonize, especially near the end. That is epic, epic, epic. Now what we're going to do is we're going to turn it over to Mr. Leon Smith to provide us some commentary about this track. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. And Leon, the floor is yours, sir.
The fifth of the 7 songs recorded in Elvis's short 3-day session at RCA Studio B in Hollywood during late March 1972 was Fool, a song which would become the opening track of his first studio album of 1973 and the unofficial title track. The album in question was officially released as Just Elvis, with the front cover art depicting a still from the recent Aloha show, and listed a selection of the tracks on the front of the album beneath the title. And since the first track listed was Fool, the album became known as Elvis, including Fool. The back cover art was typical of Elvis's albums of the period, denoting other recent Elvis album releases, but somehow RCA managed to get the track listing in the wrong order. Only 2 tracks were recorded on the 28th of March 1972, the middle of 3 nights of recordings, with the first being Burning Love and Fool the other. Elvis had the master take of Fool recorded in just 2 takes, and with no false starts, both takes were complete versions. From the 7 tracks recorded over these 3 nights, all but one, Burning Love, were selected to have orchestral overdubs added before release. Always on My Mind, Fool, For the Good Times, It's a Matter of Time, Separate Ways, and Where Do I Go From Here had the orchestral overdubs arranged by Elvis's stage pianist Glendy Harden, and these were added on the 8th of May 1972. However, despite the cost, time and effort it would have taken to add these overdubs, only For the Good Times and Where Do I Go From Here were first released with the overdubs intact. Always on My Mind and Fool were released after having most of the overdubs removed, with the originally overdubbed version of Always on My Mind finally released as the title track of an early RCA Elvis CD in 1985. An edited version of the overdubbed version of Fool was released in 1980 on the vinyl edition of the silver box set Elvis Aaron Presley, with a longer edited version on the cassette edition. This unedited version remains officially unreleased. It's a Matter of Time and Separate Ways had their orchestral overdubs completely removed before release, and the original orchestral overdub versions still remain officially unreleased to date.
Okay, thank you very much, Leon. Our next track in this presentation, A Matter of Time. Well, I want to make sure I get that right. It's a Matter of Time. All right, here we go.
It's a matter of time before I go back there. A matter of time before I go home. I have been away from her now for a long time, and I've lived a life I thought that it should be, but it's a long, long way from now to maybe sometime, and the waiting round is really killing me. It's a matter of time.
I like how he eases into that right there.
Before I go back there. Matter of time, before I go home. It's a long way, I know, and the going ain't easy. She'll see me again. It's a matter of time. think I'll take a train right early in the morning, just to see how far
I know the strings in Elvis's voice are pretty much dominating this piece, but if you listen to the acoustic guitar, there's a lot of graceful finger playing there. I mean, just next time you listen to it, just really zone out all the other greatness and focus in on that. It very intricate, yet contributes a lot.
I get along the way, but the trains don't run too often, only sometimes. So I guess I'd better wait another day. It's a matter of time before I go back there. Matter of time before I go home. It's a long way I know, and the going ain't easy. She'll see me again. It's just a matter of time. She'll see me, I know. It's a matter of time. Just listen.
Oh my God, wow. I just love the subtlety in Elvis. He could have really done the thunderous kind of thing stepping into it, but yet it really gained momentum while remaining that subtlety. Really a very expert technical journey into vocalizing right there. He just really a splendid job. All right, now we're gonna step into the expertise mode with Leon Smith. Leon, it's all yours.
Elvis's March 1972 studio session in RCA Studio C in Hollywood produced 7 studio masters over 3 days between the 27th and 29th of March. Of these songs, only 2, Fool and Where Do I Go From Here, were ever released on a regular studio album. This album was titled Elvis and was released early the following year, although the album would soon become to be known as Elvis Including Fool, after the bracketed words below the album's main title. This was most likely to distinguish it from his original 1956 album, which was also titled Elvis. Apart from For the Good Times, which would not see an official release in Elvis's lifetime, the remaining 4, Always on My Mind, Burning Love, It's a Matter of Time, and Separate Ways, would be released on albums through RCA's budget label, Camden, usually mixed among obscure 60s studio or movie tracks. 4 of the 7 tracks recorded at this March 1972 session had strings added a couple of months later and then subsequently removed before they were released, and the final RCA master recordings had bereft of the string overdubs. The alternate orchestral versions of Always on My Mind and Separate Ways, and most certainly not without merit, particularly Always on My Mind, and in either case, it may not be immediately apparent why the strings were removed. In the case of It's a Matter of Time, an obscure Elvis studio track, almost completely unknown outside the Elvis community, the reason for the removal is perhaps more obvious. The introduction sounds as if it had been more at home in Madrid or Guadalajara. Even after this fussy beginning, the strings seem to drown the song and therefore serve no discernible purpose. This version is certainly not to my taste. I prefer the undubbed master, but that's for others to agree or disagree. Although Elvis took 5 takes to record the final master, only take 4 is a complete run-through, with takes 1 through 3 being either false starts or aborted takes. Take 5, with the overdubs removed, would become the master take and would see its release in late 1972 on Burning Love and hits from his movies.
All right, thank you very much, Leon. We're now going to indulge ourselves with the 3rd track of this presentation, Separate Ways.
I see a change has come into our lives. It's not the same as it used to be, and it's not too late to realize our mistake. We're just not right for each other. Love has slipped away, left us only friends. We almost seem like strangers. All that's left between us are the memories we share of times we thought we cared for each other. There's nothing left to do but go our separate ways and pick up all the pieces left behind us. And maybe someday, somewhere along the way, another love will find us. Someday when she's
That's the
older,
flavor.
maybe she will understand why her mom and dad are not together. The tears that she will cry when I have to say goodbye will tear at my heart.
I'm curious about what these pictures, what the event was that these pictures were part of.
There's nothing left to do but go our separate ways and pick up all the pieces left behind us. And maybe someday, somewhere along the way, another love will find us.
If Elvis records this in heaven, I'm definitely going to be good for the rest of my life, man. Because I got to get there to hear that. You have those moments where you listen to something and you say, gosh, at the moment, is there anything better than this? I am having communion with musical greatness. Leon, sir, it's all yours. Let's do it.
Of all the songs which Red West either wrote or co-wrote for Elvis between 1961 and 1973, Separate Ways is perhaps the most famous and certainly the most poignant. The song was co-written by Richard Meinegra, who had written a melody with nothing in particular in mind, and after taking a liking to it, Red West began writing lyrics for it. As the lyrics began to take shape, West had taken it in the direction of Elvis's breakup with Priscilla and its effect on their young daughter Lisa Marie. The song was released by RCA as a single, with Always on My Mind as the B-side, selling over 500,000 copies and being certified gold by the RIAA. In the UK, however, the single release was the opposite, with Separate Ways as the B-side. It was the first of 7 songs recorded in a 3-night session at RCA Studio C in Hollywood, California. Elvis recorded 25 takes before the 21st was finally selected as the master take. Immediately after recording the final take, Elvis then recorded a harmony vocal of the final verse before moving on to the next song, For the Good Times, a recording which would never see an official release during Elvis's lifetime. The musicians for this recording session were unusual in that instead of session musicians plus James Burton, it was the actual complete TCB band which played in these recordings, Jerry Schiff apart, whose place on bass was filled by Emery Gordy. Although the recording session officially wrapped on the 29th of March, Elvis and the same musicians returned the following day for a mock session. This mock session was for the benefit of MGM's cameras, who were filming sequences for inclusion in the documentary movie Elvis on Tour. MGM filmed a mock recording of both sides of the upcoming 𝐼𝐶𝐴 single, and it was Separate Ways which made the final edit, and footage of Always on My Mind had to wait until 1981 and the Warner Bros. Movie This Is Elvis before an official release. Overdubs from the official 𝐼𝐶𝐴 session would not take place for 4 weeks, at which time production of On Tour was in post-production. Arranged and led by Elvis's pianist Glenn D. Hardin, a 15-piece orchestra consisting of 2 cellos, 6 violins, 2 violas and 4 trumpets recorded overdubs for Separate Ways, For the Good Times, Where Do I Go From Here, Fool, Always on My Mind, It's a Matter of Time and I'll Take You Home Again, Kathleen. This overdub session would have soon seemed like a complete waste of time, as For the Good Times will not see an official release until 1995 and its inclusion on Walk a Mile in My Shoes, The Essential 70s Masters, and in addition, both Always on My Mind and Separate Ways would have their overdubs stripped and the masters of both would remain without orchestral accompaniment. The orchestral version of Always on My Mind would remain officially unreleased until 1985, when it would become the title track of an early 𝐼𝐶𝐴 Elvis CD release. The final studio master of Separate Ways would see itself released as the title track on an album release through 𝐼𝐶𝐴's budget label, Camden. The orchestral version of Separate Ways is still waiting for an official release, and it's doubtful that it ever will, given that Follow That Dream have already released many outtakes of the song in their Standing Room Only album, named after the project for which these tracks were originally intended. There is a plethora of bootleg releases in which the orchestral version of the song can be found, but this particular version is almost impossible to find on any release. Unlike the other releases, this unedited version has a count-in at the start and no fade at the end, meaning that it lasts for 2 minutes 59 seconds instead of 2 minutes 36. Where the strings often inhibit or drown many a song, in this case it seems to add to the song's emotional pull and poignancy, whilst enhancing the song. A similar arrangement can be heard on a stage rehearsal of the song, which was undertaken on the 25th of January 1973, the day before Elvis' opening night, suggesting that he was seriously considering it for his live setlist. Sadly, it seems that Elvis never actually performed it on stage, and it remains amongst the many Elvis what could have beens. For those who wish to know such things, this version can only be found, to my knowledge, on Venus Productions' unofficial 2013 release, Unedited Masters, Nashville 1970 Revisited.
Okay, thank you, Leon. We are now going to go into the 4th track of this presentation, Always on My Mind. Listen to that bass.
Maybe I didn't treat you quite as good as I should have. Maybe I didn't love you quite as often as I could have. Little things I should have said and done, I just never took the time. You were always on my mind. You were always on my mind. Maybe I didn't hold you all those lonely, lonely times. And I guess I never told you.
Yeah, that guitar twang note that hits the end of that is missing, I could tell.
If I made you feel second best, girl, I'm so sorry I was blind. You were always on my mind. You were always on my mind. Tell chance to keep you satisfied, satisfied. Little things I should have said or done, I just never took the time. You were always on my mind.
Taking care of business.
You were always on my mind. You were always on my mind. Maybe I didn't treat you quite as good as I should have. Maybe I didn't love you quite as often as I could have. Maybe I didn't hold you all those lonely, lonely times. And I guess I never told you.
Wow, that song always just kind of gets me in spiritual knots. I'm telling you, because it's beauty. It's almost like it's untouchable. And very few people can leave that kind of indelible mark. We're going to go on with what Leon has to say about it. Sir, it's all yours.
From the 27th until the 29th of March 1972, Elvis recorded 7 tracks in the RCA Studio C in Hollywood, and among them came 2 of Elvis's most famous recordings, Burning Love and Always on My Mind. The latter has become one of Elvis's most famous and critically acclaimed ballads, and is often associated with Elvis's divorce, as it was recorded just weeks after his separation with Priscilla was made official. With no little irony, Separate Ways, the first song recorded at the sessions, was designated the A-side to the song's single release, although in the UK this was the opposite round. Also in the UK, during 2013, an ITV programme in the Nation's Favourite Song series, Always on My Mind was voted by viewers in a pre-production poll as the nation's favourite Elvis song. The original RCA master has a country feel to it, with a steel guitar played by Weldon Myrick, added in an overdub session on the 27th of April 1972. An alternate remixed version of the same first take used in the master was released in 1985 on the album of the same name, and also on the all-time greatest hits double CD the same year. This remixed version lacks the steel guitar overdubs, but instead has the original orchestral overdubs, which had been added on the 8th of May 1972 to an arrangement by Elvis's pianist Glenn D. Hardin. The day after the final recording in Hollywood, Elvis returned to the same studio for a mock session, which was purely for the benefit of MGM, who were filming for the upcoming movie Elvis on Tour. Always on My Mind and Separate Ways were both filmed during this session, but it was the latter which was used in the movie. Always on My Mind from this session was even given a recording designation, that is LPA5-5821-2, and after overdubs, not unlike those on the master, the footage was used in the 1981 movie This Is Elvis and on the accompanying album.
Okay, well that wraps it up. I want to thank Leon Smith. Look in the he has, of course, the Ultimate Elvis channel on YouTube, so I'll provide a link in. He also has a podcast, so a lot of cool stuff he has going on right now, and he's branching out too, and it's just so exciting to see what he's got going. Thank you so much, Leon. Thank you so much, everybody out there. We love you very much. We'll see you very soon, and until then, please go out and get your piece of the peace.